to Box Office Maniacs. And if you did not watch last Friday and you have no idea what this is a brand new show that I am bringing you called Franchise Friday Frights. Now, every Friday we are continuing a horror film in the series of whatever series we're bringing you. This happens to be Wolf Creek. I originally was going to record this for Horror Month this year, but now we've decided to do something a little bit different for Horror Month, and I didn't want this just to hang around for another year, so I decided to come up with this brand new show so I can actually show off a couple of franchises that we've already recorded, and this is one of them. So here you go. Here's our brand new show. Hopefully all you maniacs out there love it, and if you do, stick around to the end, because why not? I mean, why not? Wolf Creek 2! This actually got on Blu-ray, believe it or not. Yes, they actually had the second one on Blu-ray. The first one, nope. The second one, Blu-ray.
And that is a winner.
And not only did this come on Blu-ray, it came with a DVD and Blu-ray. First one, nope. So if you watch my review for the first Wolf Creek, you know that I started with this movie, Wolf Creek 2. And it was on Netflix real late at night one night, and I was flipping through trying to find something. I came across this, and I thought, I kept seeing it on there. And it was one of those things I kept getting on there, and I kept seeing it, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to play this thing and see what it is. I'm sure I'm going to watch it for 5 minutes, find it terrible, turn it off, and I'll be done with it. But about 10 minutes into it, I was like, wow, this is actually really good. And then about 20 minutes into it, I was like, holy cow, this is an awesome movie. And the practical effects in the film are awesome. Right in the beginning of the film, something happens, and it's incredible. It's just like, oh my God, that's amazing looking. So if you're not familiar with Wolf Creek, or if you don't know who Mick Taylor is, or if you don't know who John Jarrett is, I'm going to tell you, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to stir the soup in the pot that looks like the skull that you're going to eat the brains out of to give you the information of Wolf Creek. None of that made any sense, but does it really need to? Alright, so Wolf Creek is about a serial killer named Mick Taylor. And he is in the Outback. He is Australian, and this whole entire movie takes place in the Outback. And just like the first movie, it comes on and says, this is based on a true story, or true events, which I'm sure there's many true events of what happens in the Outback, because, again, like I said, the first review, the Outback is so expansive, it's so huge. If a serial killer wanted to go out there and start murdering people, how would they ever find it? He would be almost untouchable, and the bodies he could take anywhere in the Outback and bury them, or just leave them out there for the dingoes to eat, or I don't know if kangaroos eat bodies, but whatever's going to eat the body, they would never find it. I mean, they would literally never find the bodies out there in the Outback. So that right there is a great idea for a story. So you take that great idea for a story, you get a fantastic director like Greg McLean, and you get even a better actor like John Jarrett, who plays Mick Taylor, and you have a great horror film here. Now, watching this one first, unlike the first one, when they show John Jarrett, they show Mick Taylor in the film, I didn't know who he was. I mean, it's like, okay, who is this guy? He's just an Australian guy. I don't know. But, of course, coming from the first to the second one, obviously the second one is a much different story now, because you know who he is and what he does. And the very beginning of this film, like I said, is really cool what he does in his film. And it's filled with just such amazing practical effects. And it's a little reminiscent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Line them up.
Sort of. What happens to the guy on the bridge. I'm not going to give any spoilers away here. Because the first one was a lot like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because of the style it was filmed with the shaky cam and stuff. And so I think maybe the beginning of this was sort of a tribute to the second Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know, but it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And the story here is somewhat similar to the first movie, but the directing here is a whole lot different. It is way differently directed than the first film. The first film, with a lot of shaky cams, a lot of running around, you know, because he wanted to make it feel like it was a documentary style, but it was really well filmed. This one is none of that. You don't have any of the shaky cams. It is an actual, real, more or less, camera on a tripod. The directing in the second one is just as good as the first one. It didn't need the documentary style in the second one to be just as good as directed as the first one. The first half of this film is really weird. It's a very strange first half of the film because we are following a group of a man and a woman, and they're French, I think, and they're traveling to this place in Wolf Creek. This is a big crater, big meteor hit Australia at some point apparently and made this gigantic crater, and it's called Wolf Creek. So these two people are traveling across country or traveling to this crater to see it. Now, when you get to the crater, it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's a desolate area. There's nothing out there, and even if you are driving out there, sometimes it'll affect your car or affect your watch, and it has some sort of magnetic whatever out there. And again, great idea for a story. And once you're out there, you get stuck, and here comes Mick Taylor, to help you out, not knowing that he's going to take you back and kill you. So you have this couple in the beginning of the film, and I don't want to give out too many spoilers here, but it's a great beginning because it's so weird and it's so strange, it's so different from the first one. It's the same because they're going to Wolf Creek, but he did it differently enough to where it's entertaining and you don't really know what's going to happen really. Especially if this was the first film you watch out of the series, because I had no idea. I didn't know what was happening out of it. And I guess maybe that's why I liked it so much, was because I didn't have any expectations because I hadn't watched the first film yet. But here you have Mick Taylor, and Mick Taylor is in this movie a whole lot more than he was in the first one. The first one he was kind of in it a little bit, and he was in and out of it a little bit. But this one is sort of his showcase. He was in this movie a lot. And that's not a bad thing because John Jarrett, the guy who plays Mick Taylor, is an amazing actor. He is so great in this film. I don't know why he's not up there with Freddy and Jason and all these characters, these classic horror icons. He needs to be in that category with them. But yet nobody really has heard or talked about Wolf Creek that much, but they should because it's such a great series. And I'm telling you right now, if you're any kind of horror fan, if you're a fan of the Friday the 13th series or Nightmare or Halloween or any of those sort of slasher films, you will love this movie. You will love Mick Taylor. You will love John Jarrett. You will love all these characters. Without giving too much away again with this film, it gets intense. It gets very bloody. These are very bloody films. I didn't really say that in the first film, but these are horror films, and they do get extremely violent and extremely bloody. And very intense, too. Now, one of my favorite parts about Wolf Creek 2 is the whole ending of it. The whole last half of the film, I thought, was a work of genius. It was so intense and kind of funny, but at the same time, terrifying. So you get that combination of those three, and you are able to put them into a pie and feed them to other people, then you have a success on your hands. Not only do you have a success, you have one great horror film. I could not recommend it any higher, and Wolf Creek 2 for me gets a 5 out of 5. I like this actually almost better than the first film, because being as it was my first Wolf Creek movie. The first film was also great. I just like the whole ending of this film. What happens, I guess, the last 45 minutes of this film was so good. It just couldn't be touched. It just can't be touched. It's so good. So here's hoping for a Wolf Creek 3 at some point, but they went off and they started making a TV series. There is an actual TV series of Wolf Creek, and I will bring you the review for that next time here on the franchise that is